This happened several years ago when I lived with my ex-boyfriend. We had been living there for roughly a month when this event occurred. My ex was out with work colleagues, and I was home alone. I spent the early evening watching TV and eating takeout. A couple of times, I heard strange noises, but whenever I tried to focus on them, they seemed to stop. As the night progressed, I decided to head upstairs and use the computer for a while before going to bed. At that time, we hadn't had our phone line installed, and I was still using a pay-as-you-go phone that had run out of credit. I had no way to communicate with anyone while I was in the house for the night. I was sitting in the bedroom with only a small table lamp on, barely casting a glow, typing away on my laptop when I started hearing strange noises again. It began as a faint rattling noise, so light that I had to strain to confirm if it was real. I turned off my music, trying to discern the source. I went to our bedroom and looked down to the front door, but nobody was there. Our small yard had a high brick wall and a solid wooden gate, but I couldn't see anything unusual outside. I resumed typing with my music on, but about 10 minutes later, I heard an eerie, faint screeching sound like metal on metal, as if someone or something was desperately trying to be quiet. Feeling increasingly uneasy, I went into our bedroom to retrieve a heavy iron rod we found in the back of the built-in wardrobe. I didn't switch on any lights, not wanting to alert any possible intruder to my location inside the house. I had no means to call anyone, and my concern grew as I entertained the possibility of someone actually being inside. I cautiously headed into the bathroom, trying to get a better look into the alley that the house backed onto. The office, bedroom, and bathroom formed an L around the yard, with the bathroom extending further out. I climbed onto the ledge and cautiously opened the window to peer out. The whispering grew louder, coming from directly behind my gate. I couldn't discern whole sentences, but it was enough to realize that these men had seen our valuable equipment and that I was alone. I perched there, feeling time stretch like an eternity, until a thunderous thud echoed up to me. It seemed the intruders had abandoned stealth and were now trying to break the gate. I saw it shudder under the blows, realizing how vulnerable I was. Clutching the iron rod, I frantically considered where to hide when suddenly, a glaring light blinded me. At first, I panicked, thinking they were shining a flashlight at the house, but then I heard barking and shouting. Peeking out, I saw the house across the alley had a floodlight, illuminating both yards and the alleyway. The intruders grumbled and cursed before hurrying away. I stayed locked in that room until my ex-boyfriend returned in the early hours of the morning. I didn't sleep a wink that night. When I went into the yard in the morning, my gate was hanging by one hinge, clearly tampered with. The keyhole was scratched, as if someone had tried to force the lock, if not for the intervention of the neighbors. I dread to think what could have happened. Despite the terror of that night, I was immensely grateful for the intervention of the neighbors. Their timely intervention likely prevented a harrowing situation. It was a stark wake-up call to the vulnerability of our home and our safety. After that incident, we reinforced security measures, installing stronger locks and enhancing the yard's lighting. I also made sure never to be alone in the house without a means of communication. The experience lingered as a haunting reminder, but it also fueled a newfound sense of vigilance. As time passed, we moved on from that place. Seeking a safer environment, the memory of that terrifying night remains etched in my mind, a chilling reminder of the importance of staying cautious and prepared. It was a night I'll never forget, teaching me valuable lessons about personal safety and the significance of a secure home. This happened way back when I was 11, just me and my little bro, who was 7 at the time, chilling at home, It was like 9 p.m., pitch dark, and pouring rain outside. We're just reading in our room, right next to the front door with this big window and open blinds. Suddenly, doorbell rings followed by knocking. I'm thinking it's my parents, but it's weird cause they usually use the garage or their keys. I peek outside, expecting them, but nope, just rain. Then, I hear this guy's voice offering Girl Scout cookies. Girl, it's dark and raining, something ain't right. I go to check the peephole and side window. It ain't some dad with cookies like I thought. Nah, it's a grown man, maybe in his late 50s. No cookies in sight, just soaking on my doorstep. Panic mode kicks in. I gotta check those locks cause he definitely heard me. Dude keeps knocking, blabbering about his cookies. And that's when I realize the blinds in my room are wide open, where my bro's chilling with the lights on. I see this creep peeping into our window, eyeing my brother reading. Heart's racing. I'm freaking out. So, I gather all my guts, turn off the lights, and bolt to the window to shut those blinds. The guy sees everything. I go full lockdown mode, checking locks, closing blinds, telling my bro to hang in this closet with no windows. I didn't spill the beans to him, cause I didn't want him scared. But here's the kicker, I didn't call the cops or my parents. I just waited it out until this dude split. Still gives me the creeps thinking about it. So many ways that night could have gone wrong. Man, my biggest nightmare. A stranger getting through that unlocked door. Looking back, it's wild to think how close things got. That night was a close call, but thankfully, nothing serious went down after that. I made sure every lock was tight, and we were always super careful about unexpected visitors. But man, even now, it gives me chills to imagine what could have happened if I hadn't acted fast. That fear of a stranger making it through that door, it's stuck with me ever since. This happened a good 10 years ago. But I'll try to get it all right. We had this house when I was a kid. And it had this balcony linking my mom's room and mine with these big glass doors. Next to that balcony were these two trees. I used to climb those like it was nothing. The balcony faced the street. I was around 13 when this went down. One night, with a dim reading light, I heard something moving in one of those trees outside. I thought it was just possums or bats. They're pretty common around there. I had these thin curtains covering those glass doors. Through them, you could see the street lamplight. After the rustling in the trees, I spot a shadow slowly passing those doors. That's when I shut off my light and freeze. This shadow was tall. Not any kid from around or my short mom. They were sneaking by like they didn't want to be seen. They probably couldn't see into my room, but thanks to the street lights, I could see their silhouette. They moved out of sight, and I couldn't even move. Man. Then I hear someone trying to open my mom's door to the balcony. I wasn't sure if it was locked, but I wasn't risking anything. Quick and quiet. I sprint to my bedroom door and lock it. They're still messing with the door, but it ain't opening. I felt relieved. I thought they'd bounce once they realized they couldn't get in. But nope, they start pacing the balcony, back and forth. I didn't have a cell phone then, and the landline was too far. Too scared to take my eyes off this person or even call for help. Tears were rolling down my face, praying they'd just leave. Then they stop and say, I could just break the glass. You know, I'm freaking out, but then, car headlights turn onto my street. Mom's back, the person bolts, and I hear a thud as they jump off the balcony. I was a mess when Mom came in, barely making sense. Eventually, she gets it and calls the cops. They never caught anyone, but a neighbor reported a sketchy truck in the area. matching one link to attempted abductions near my school. They figured the person might have followed me or seen where I lived, and waited. The cops didn't catch the person, but knowing they might have been linked to those attempted abductions sent chills down my spine. After that night, I couldn't shake off the fear. I was lucky my mom got back when she did. From then on, I made sure everything was locked up tight, and I was always on edge. Whenever I heard any noise outside, it's been years, but that memory still gives me goosebumps. It was the middle of summer, and my parents had left for the weekend to go to our house in Cape Cod, which was about a 2-hour drive away. It was no big deal for them to leave me alone for a few days. My mom had prepared some pulled pork and pasta for me to heat up whenever I wanted, and I had some money if I wanted to order a pizza. Everything seemed fine. And on the first night alone, I stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning playing Xbox. So, I ended up waking up really late the next day. When I checked my phone upon waking up, I realized it was a little past 1 p.m. I had plans to play some street hockey with my friends around 3 o'clock. So I hurriedly got out of bed and stumbled into the shower. I tend to take really long showers, especially when my parents aren't home. So I was in there for about 45 minutes, scrolling through Reddit and Twitter. That's when I heard one of the doors open. The bathroom was directly above the back door, and it made quite a loud noise when opened and closed. I immediately froze because, obviously, I was supposed to be alone. I waited for about 2 minutes, trying to hear anything else. I figured it might just be the wind, or maybe my parents had returned home early. So, I turned off the shower, wrapped a towel around myself, and slowly walked down the stairs to check it out. Even though my house is old, and every step on the stairs makes a super loud creak, I tried to be as quiet as possible. I took my time and probably spent 45 seconds walking down all 12 of those stairs. When I got to the second to last stair, right before I could see around the corner into the kitchen, I took a breath to compose myself. In my mind, I knew I was probably being silly and overly cautious. There couldn't possibly be anything in the kitchen. There was no way I wouldn't have heard another noise, and there was no reason for anyone to be there. After mentally chastising myself for being paranoid, I chuckled at my own nerves and walked the last 2 stairs, turning the corner into the kitchen. There, about 2 feet away from me, in the middle of my kitchen, stood a man staring straight at me. He was perfectly still, with a massive smile across his face. What struck me the most vividly wasn't his face or his smile, but his arms. They weren't just at his sides. He held them in the most strange, abnormal position I've ever seen. It's hard to explain, but he had rotated them to the point where they were almost completely reversed, lifted up, and a little behind himself. It was the most demonic, abnormal position I've ever witnessed. Honestly, I think I almost had a heart attack right there. Looking back, I realize how creepy the situation was, but in that moment, I just reacted. I took a step towards him and punched him as hard as I could in the jaw, sort of half slapping and pushing him towards the ground. The second I connected, I sprinted up the stairs, dropping my towel in the kitchen, my heart beating out of control. I dashed into my room and locked the door behind me. I quickly put a chair against the doorknob, almost without thinking. I also immediately called 911, nearly in tears, and told the operator what happened as I sat on the floor of my room, practically in the fetal position, staring at the door, praying that a cop would arrive as soon as possible. I noticed the light coming from the gap between my door had stopped. The guy was standing outside of my door. There are no words to describe the feeling I had. I was paralyzed with fear. Watching the shadow across the bottom of the door shift in different ways, I stayed curled up, unable to even speak, praying the man would go away, for what seemed like an hour. All the while, the 911 operator was asking, "Hello, sir. Are you there? Hello." But I didn't want to make a noise. Eventually, the light returned to the gap, and I heard the faintest of footsteps slowly creaking the wooden floorboards. As he walked down the hall, it was silent for minutes as I just sat there curled up, unable to even speak. Then, I heard banging on the front door and the sound of 2 officers entering my house. I finally felt safe and opened the door to the 2 of them standing there. I almost cried. Nowadays, my parents don't leave me home alone anymore. Thank God. I check every lock in the house before going to bed. I still get nightmares occasionally, and my heart races whenever I see someone standing still. But I'm doing all right. Even working with sketch artists and going through a few lineups. The police never found whoever was in my house, and that sends shivers down my spine every time I look outside, half expecting to see him standing across the street, smiling under a lamppost. I have no idea what he wanted or who he was, but regardless, maybe that's for the best. Maybe it's better that his intentions remain a mystery, as unsettling as it is to not know why someone invaded my home. It's a chilling reminder to always be vigilant. I've learned to trust my instincts and take precautions, ensuring my safety and peace of mind. Though the memory lingers and the fear occasionally resurfaces, I've found strength in overcoming that night. I've embraced a newfound resilience, knowing that even in the face of the unknown, I can persevere. And as I move forward, I hold onto the hope that one day, the haunting memory will fade, leaving only a cautionary tale in its wake. So, I've had some pretty sketchy run-ins with strangers at home since I was young. One time, this old guy would bang on our door at night, asking for me. I'd hide inside. Then there was another time, when a dude showed up with a knife, thinking our place was our neighbor's. These incidents made me super wary of opening the door, especially at night when I'm home alone, but this one evening really took the cake. It was like 6 p.m., November 2018, England. So it was pitch black outside. I just got back from work, chilling in my room upstairs, watching YouTube on my laptop. Mom hollers she's picking up my brother and hitting the gas station, so she'll be out for a bit. I'm 17, no biggie being alone at night. But things got weird real quick. After like 10 minutes, I start hearing noises downstairs. First, I think it's just my cat rummaging for food, but then I realize the cat's chilling with me. I pause my video and listen closer. I hear banging on the back door, keys jingling. I assume it's my brother. He can get mad sometimes. But this banging keeps going, and it doesn't sound like him. I'm anxious as heck, thinking the worst late at night. But I try to be brave and head to the kitchen. As I turn the corner, I hear this big bang and footsteps darting off. Someone tore the cat flap. Plastic bits everywhere. I'm trying to convince myself it's not a break-in. I call my mom to check if it's my brother messing around. But he's still in the car. I'm freaking out. He's serious, and I'm losing it. I explain everything, and he's yelling for me to call the cops. I'm scared out of my mind, locked in my room, reporting everything to the dispatcher. Then I hear more noise downstairs. They're back. I'm bawling my eyes out on the phone. My mom, bro, and the cops roll up, all at once. Turns out, these creeps tried to break in. They spotted the keys, used a broom to fish them in through the cat flap. Thankfully, they accidentally broke the door handle while trying to get in. Otherwise, they'd have barged in, and I'd have had no clue. It's clear they were watching, waiting for my mom to split. Not sure if they knew I was alone, but I do know they came back after seeing me initially and fleeing. It was a terrifying ordeal, realizing how close things got. Those intruders were eyeing our house, waiting for the perfect moment. It's haunting to think what might have happened if they had gotten inside. After that night, security at home became a top priority. We reinforced everything, double-checked all the locks, and installed extra measures. The feeling of vulnerability stuck with me, making me hyper-aware of every creak or unfamiliar sound at night. I still shiver when I remember that night. The thought of someone trying to break in, and the fear of not knowing their intentions. It's something that stays with you. It's a stark reminder that sometimes danger lurks right at your doorstep.